Hello there, I'm Scotty, and you're not. And it's the official start of Sequel-A-Thon. Um, just to let you know what happened. Over the weekend, I went down to see my sister. She lives in Iowa, and I live in Minnesota. I went down to visit her. The whole family did. We had a big old celebration for her 30th birthday. And so by the time I got back, even on Monday, especially after working on Monday, should have took that Monday off, but I was exhausted, so there was no way. I should have pre-recorded a review to go up on Monday. I didn't think about that. I was just happy I got things pre-recorded, but I didn't know. I also didn't know which one I wanted to start with, so I decided. Also, because I bought the collection, but we're gonna start with Transporter 3. Which I did not watch this, but the reason I decided to do it is because I bought this Jason Statham collection that has Transporter 3. Yeah, it has Wildcard War, The Bank Job, and it has Crank 1 and 2. Not Transport, but only Transporter 3. I don't know why. But I didn't watch it on this either. I watched it on digital on my Vudu. So, and I'm going to try to get more Jason Statham movies. That's my next one. He has less movies than the other two I'm getting, which is Bruce Willis and Jean-Claude Van Damme were big ones. And then, of course, Nicolas Cage is another one who's an ongoing one. But, yeah, Transporter 3. So the Transporter 3, Jason Statham once again plays Frank Martin, the transporter. And when a car literally crashes into his house, featuring another which includes another transporter, a friend of his named Malcolm, he is thrust into this plot by the villain known as Johnson to take this young woman somewhere while he blackmails her father into giving him what he wants, which is allowing shipment of garbage, as they say, or illegal chemicals into the Ukraine for some nefarious reason, which is never really explained, I don't think. So, what I want to say about this is that I feel like there's a lot less hand-to-hand action sequences in this. There are a few, but I feel like there's a lot of car explosion action sequence in this one more than the other two. You do have some standoff fights, but other than that, they're done very well, I would say. And even though I found it very obvious who this young woman was supposed to be, like they don't mention it till later in the film, but she is the Ukrainian prime minister's daughter, and it's very obvious to figure out. So besides Jason Statham, we also have Francois Berlin. Francois Berlin returning to play Inspector Harconi. And I think he gets less to do in this one than the other two. He's there, like it starts out he and Frank are fishing, and then he gets called away because there's something to do with a transporter, and they think it's Frank, but he's his alibi. And then he's doing this investigation, and eventually he meets up with the Prime Minister of Ukraine. And but he doesn't really do much. He does meet up with Frank towards the end of the film, but he doesn't do as much as I think in the first two. Our villain, Mr. Johnson, is played by Robert Nepper, who is a fantastic villainous actor. You want a good villain? Pick him. He was good. Search out Prison Break if you want a good villain performance from him. Also, I think he was good in Heroes. So he's a good villain character. And the Ukrainian Prime Minister is played by Yarun Krabe, who was General Koskov in The Living Daylights. And for some reason, even though the language is very similar, I think he's a better Ukrainian than he is a Russian. I know they're not exactly the same, but they're similar. Similar. But yeah, uh, I actually thought this was pretty good as a trilogy. I think this is a solid trilogy. It doesn't really connect, and I also found one thing kind of odd. Like after he gets so after the first film, he's kind of done with the transporter business, right? So in the second one, he's a bodyguard. Well, in this one, he's, he was tasked with doing this and he passed it off to Malcolm. He didn't want to do it. And then he gets forced to do it with this bracelet. But then when Johnson is talking to him, he's like, you have your rules. No names, list the whole rules and stuff. And doing it. And he has to do it because there's this bracelet on him. And if they move any farther, a certain amount from the car, it's going to explode. They both die. That's what happens to Malcolm when he's taken away in an ambulance. And so Malcolm crashes in there, right? And so they take Malcolm in the ambulance. Nobody notices the girl in the back seat who goes in there to take him out. No one does. Until after. And yeah. And of course, she becomes the love interest, which is cliche, but in these kind of movies, you have to have it. I don't think she necessarily needed to be there fishing at the end with him and Harconi, whatever his name is, the inspector. I was going to call him the inspector, it's easier. And like I said, I loved the inspector in the first two. I mean, he had a lot to do in the second one, I think, wasn't it? The second one was sort of a side plot too. He was on his way to America, doing some side things, but he was funny. Here, he's just a random phone call every once in a while. So I don't know. And I guess he's always been sort of a side character in these films, but I feel like in this one more than the other two, he gets less to do. At least in the second one, he was sort of helping, where here he's just sort of doing his own thing until eventually meeting up with Frank, but there's not really much done, I also thought that the actress they got to play Valentina, that's the young woman, the daughter, I didn't think she was very good. She's very wooden. Of an actress. Like I said, I liked Robert Knepper in this. I thought he was pretty good. There was some decent action sequences, mostly to do with explosions and cars. And I liked at the end with the train, they brought the whole, you can't, it's a certain point, and he gets to Johnson, but he can't get to him because the car, because it's tethered to the car. So you go a certain amount away from the car, it's going to go boom. So he can't get any farther, or it's going to go boom. So he goes up the top, grabs the car, drives it in, and then proceeds to kick his ass. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's a standard plot of the plot of like the villain plot, trying to get this guy to sign the thing so these ships can come in with this toxic chemicals or whatever it is. It's never actually explained what it is. They just say it's garbage, and they don't know what. They never say what they're going to use it for, what the big plan is. They just need to get it into the Ukraine. It just not really much of a plot. I also thought that Jeroen Krabbe was better here than he was in The Living Daylights for some reason. Maybe he was just didn't have much experience back then. I thought he was actually pretty good here. You could buy him as a father who just wants his daughter back. I thought it was pretty well done. Of course, Jason Statham, on point as always. I think the most on point thing in all three of these films is him. I think he gives a solid performance in all three of these films. And I think that when it comes to the three films, they're all solid. I would say that this is a middle of the road with some of the things, but my favorite of the trilogy, if I had to rank the trilogy, This would be at the bottom, followed by the first one, and then the second one at the top. Here's the thing. When I was getting ready to watch these, I did that Jason Statham weekend thing like sometime last year. And when I was getting ready to watch through them, only one I remembered is the one where he's protecting the kid. And that's the second one. And watching through all three of these, that is the better of the two. Of the three. Excuse me. I was thinking of Crank in my head for some reason. Of the three. I didn't remember anything from the first two. And if you think about it, this is sort of a rehash of this one and the third one, I should say. This is sort of a rehash of the first one. He's tasked with taking a girl somewhere, and she's very important to the plot of this film. Plot of the film, something's going to go down, you get a villain, cops are chasing, are also investigating. It's very similar. I think it's a different director, but it's similar. Yeah, it's the middle of the road, but it's actually a decent start to Sequel-A-Thon. It can only get worse, right? Especially with some of the sequels I have in mind for this. Especially with my next one. It's another 3 movie. Oh, I should actually check. Hold on, before I give you a hint to the next one, I need to make sure I can actually give the hint. Bear with me, folks. Just bear with me. I need to make sure I can give the hint. Otherwise, it's going to be scratched off mine. Come on. Lord. Alright, okay, I can do the hint. The next movie I'm doing is also the third in the franchise that has currently 5 films, although the last 2 I won't be able to do because they're not, I can't find them anywhere, but it is the third film in a series about a certain clown, where I said the first one was a piece of shit movie, the second one wasn't much better, but now we are going to re-enter this world. And that'll be our next review. So until then, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.